Hello there! In today's video, I want to cover how Enlightenment era understandings of free speech can help you be more effective at crowdsourcing the shared intelligence of your team and integrating feedback from your clients to have the most successful possible training jam. The first I want to start with is sharing the book that inspired this, and it is this really cool, beautifully designed book over here called All Minus One, John Stuart Mill's Ideas on Free Speech. And very specific, I believe this is chapter 2 of his famous book on liberty. So I can't say that this particular book does a good job of boiling it down to base level, but the advantage is it does allow you to read John Stuart Mill's actual ideas on this topic. So let's dive into how you use this framework to make better decisions. So there are 3 arguments that John Stuart Mill makes in chapter 2 of On Liberty. The first argument is that the opinion may possibly be true. What that means is that even if, for instance, hypothetically, your whole team has a consensus on taking the organization in a certain direction, perhaps there's one person that's an outlier. There's one person that's an outlier that thinks differently, and it's very important that that person has an opportunity to share their piece with everybody else, because that diversity of opinion is why we work in teams and organizations. We give each other what we lack. Now, of course, John Stuart Mill is talking specifically about how free speech works in society, but I'm talking about this specifically about how you crowdsource information with your team. So in other words, if you're doing, say, a quarterly or annual planning session with Unicorn Society, with your coaches at Business for Unicorns, we always recommend you do it with members of your leadership team. And importantly, we really recommend that everybody develops the skill to be candid and disagree in a forthright way, because the opinion may possibly be true. Even if there's an outlier person, they may have something to share that is really meaningful that they might be correct about that the rest of you are all overlooking. And sometimes in a business, you might have a certain vantage point as the leader that is a little incomplete. And sometimes somebody that, maybe is even at the front desk has a really important contribution that, if you're open to it, just might help change your mind. As a business, you make a better decision. Now, the second argument here is he who knows only his side of the case. And what that means is, if you only know your side of an argument for a certain issue, the reality is you're leaving some stuff on the table. And this reminds me of a Charlie Munger framework. And one of them is that until you can articulate the opposite side opinion from your own opinion on a given issue, you don't really have the right, you haven't earned your own opinion yet, because you can't explain their side better than they can explain their side. For instance, this hypothetical team member is incorrect. Until you really understand why they think the way that they do, your own rationale, your own thinking, and your framework for making the decision that you want to make about, as let's say, a hypothetical decision, you're missing part of the piece. And even if you ultimately disagree, your understanding of why you think the way you do will be strengthened from getting a disconfirming opinion and having some disconfirming evidence brought into the conversation. Now, the third and final argument to be made in this piece, which is perhaps my favorite, is that conflicting doctrines share the truth between them. And that is another perhaps obvious statement, which is to say that usually one side doesn't have a monopoly on what's true. Usually it is only through the synthesis of competing viewpoints that we are able to make the best decisions and move forward, because we live in a confusing and complicated and multivariate, very pretentious word, we live in a multivariate world, a lot of different perspectives, people have different values, different personality styles, and the more in an organization you're able to really integrate feedback, even if you at first blush disagree, from members of your team, if you get critical feedback from your clients perhaps, and at first blush you really disagree and you think it's unfair and incorrect, the more we're able to get curious. At the very least, it's going to strengthen your own understanding of why you disagree, but much of the time, more often than many of us might care to admit, you will find the truth is in between the two sides, and there's important things that you learn from that conversation, from really considering that other point of view, that are going to allow you to do your core job, which is do your very best to understand not only where you want to go, but what is actually true, which will allow you to create a reasonable plan to move from where you are and what is actually true to your preferred vision, your preferred future for your business and your life. All right, my friends. I am Mark Fisher. If you are interested in making more income, having more impact, and getting more happiness with your training gym, then you'll want to go ahead and subscribe, like, and share this YouTube channel for more actionable tips, psychological frameworks, and philosophy.